Yeah, we're getting there. Things are starting to pick up a little steam. So it's been really for us, but working with Chad, we've kind of got some fairly steady flow of leads coming in, and then we're starting to convert some of them. So it's gonna be
Okay.
busy here, hopefully.
Let me, if you don't mind, I'm the type of person that if I'm taking notes while I'm talking, I can't do two things at once. So do you care if I record this?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because I can go back and that's how I do everything. If I sit here and do this while you're talking, I'm not even really listening to you.
Yeah, no worries. I'm right there with you.
All right, cool. Can you see me when I'm talking? I want to make
I
sure I.
can. Yep. Everything
Okay,
looks good.
cool, cool. All right. So it sounds like you got some exciting things going on. What's been happening?
We've probably in the last from Wednesday to Monday of this last week, we signed three contracts. Um, and we had been working one of those leads for, gosh, was it May now? 2.5 months we were working it, and we finally landed that one. So yesterday, I actually got to the point where yesterday I actually had to turn down somebody that I'd previously given an offer to. So I kind of gave it. I got pretty aggressive on it because we didn't really have anything at the time, but it would have been I think 18 or 20,000 bucks on a pretty quick flip. And they called me back after about a month, and they're like, "Hey, we were trying to sell with another investor, and it fell through. And we got another guy that he's offering more than you, but we like the way we everything went with you, and it seemed like you really were just going to make it a super simple process. So even though we can make more money with this other guy, would you be willing to go ahead and stand by your previous offer?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, "I'm sorry, you guys are about a week late, man." And I started telling them kind of how busy I was, and I said, I said, "If you want to take," I said, "I'll lower my offer 10 grand." I said, "That's probably about the only way I could do it. Otherwise, I'm not going to have investors that are going to want to stand behind a pretty thin deal like this," because I was going to do that one just out of my pocket. So,
That's crazy. So, all right, give me because I'm new in the loop here. Give me a little background. What were you doing before this? How did you get into this?
yeah, so I started off. So I was a project manager for a commercial general contractor. I did that for about 10 years. And the last couple of projects I was on, I was managing, the last one was an $85 million hotel up in the House Ski Valley Mountains. And it was like 6, 7 days a week for a year and a half. And I had to be on site. I wasn't allowed to really have my family up there. And I got two young kids. And I was just like, man, this is ridiculous. When the job started, my kids were about a year old. We had some prep work for a couple seasons. And then that big job came in. And it was on my kids' third birthday. I went to their birthday party, and I'm kind of looking at them, looking at some of their friends. I'm like, holy cow, man! I basically have missed the last 3 years of your guys' life, and it just clicked. Like I was like, man, I got to change something. I can't do this forever. And so
That,
that's when I decided I like, all right, I've got to change industries. So what do I like? What have I always wanted to do? Well, I used to be involved in, I guess, real estate investing as a contractor. I guess even as a kid, I worked for a guy that he was a family friend. He had like 25 or 30 rental properties in town. And I would paint the houses for him. And then it started going, okay, well, paint the houses and patch the walls. Now paint the houses, patch the walls, and install a new cabinet, that kind of thing. Got to the point where I was doing like additions to the house and converted a garage to living space. And I always thought, all right, this is what I want to do. I want to be like this guy. And then I go to college, get a real job, get a career, and I forget all about that stuff. Kind of the fun time in my life. And so then I started thinking about that old time again. I was like, all right, maybe I really enjoyed that. Maybe I'll do that again. So then I joined a real estate education group, got hooked, and I was like, all right, I can do this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to commit. And so I guess it was March or April of 17 that I quit my full time job and started focusing on real estate. Well, it kind of turned into one of those things where it's like, well, okay, well, I'm going to take a few months off and then I'm really going to get into it. I'd been working like a dog, and taking those few months off was kind of like, it kind of made me a little lazy, I guess. And so then I wasn't super motivated. So then it turned into like, well, maybe I'll just go help a friend on the weekend to go do this, or maybe I'll go on a quick little vacation and do that. So a couple months turns into like 6 months, and then it's like, okay, man, I really, my bank account's getting pretty thin here, so I actually need to actually take this serious. And so then I really started looking. I land a job, and I thought, I like doing the work. I'm going to do the work. So then, in basically all of 2018, I was flipping this house by myself. Did all of the work myself except the license required work, and that basically ate up all of 2018 for me. And so then, I'm not really building a business doing that. And so then I decided this year, it's like, okay, I've got to just actually hire this stuff out. Well, then when you're hiring it out, you got to have a little bit bigger margins because you're not self-performing the work yourself. And I was having a really hard time finding things that were meeting those criteria to where I could actually hire contractors and still make some money. And so that's really when I kind of met up with Chad and got into his marketing deal, and he kind of started giving me some tips and tricks because we had been doing marketing throughout 2018, mostly like direct mail, Craigslist, Facebook, a lot of the typical type of marketing campaigns. And man, I bet we were approaching 40 grand in marketing, and we didn't have a single deal out of it because the one house we did get was from the MLS. And I thought, man, this is just nuts. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep just pouring money into it. It's not like I'm spending money and bringing in a little bit of money. It's like I'm spending money, not bringing in anything. So then I kind of start thinking like, oh man, maybe I just need to stop and go back to my career and get out of this. This isn't going to work for me. And that's when I kind of started talking with Chad. He gave me actually the tip of the newspaper. And man, that newspaper, we've been killing it with that thing.
That's crazy. So before, when you're like, all right, you're like everyone in the sense that you're working this 9 to 5, and especially with young children. I have my first on the way, so I'm sure I'm gonna. Thanks, man, and congrats to you too for your kids.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you're just like, I mean, it's just unfulfilling. It can be. I'm sure there are people who land dream jobs, and like I always wanted to be a doctor, and they become a doctor. But most of the time, you get into these jobs, and time goes by, and it's like, dude, what am I doing?
Right, exactly.
What was it like? What were your stabs at investing in real estate like, and some of the roadblocks you were tripping over before you had gotten with Chad? Like, what was some of the? I mean, I know you had gone into the fact that you blew. What was it? How much did you say?
About 40 grand.
Oh my! So
yeah,
so like, what were the roadblocks? What was like jamming you up like that?
So I mean, most of the marketing we were getting, like most of the money went to direct mail, and that we were getting. I think we were getting a point. If I remember right, it was 0.025%. Usually it's like that's response rate. Normally it's like 3%. I think is what they say the national average is. We weren't even at half of 1%. And so we couldn't even get people to respond to us. And the people we would get respond, it was like, oh yeah, I see you don't charge commissions. I've been wanting to sell my house for $300,000. I'll sell it to you for $299. And it's like, okay, this is not really how this works. And we were just constantly getting those types of leads. And it was just kind of garbage leads. So, and then Craigslist ads, I would get a few calls every once in a while, but me and every other investor in town was getting those same calls. And so I'd show up and they'd be like, hey, okay, so you're number 5. So we got to hurry up. You got 15 minutes because number 6 is showing up after you. And I'm like, oh my God. And it's just like a big cattle call. And so it was trying to find leads that nobody else was going after that were good leads. We were having zero luck with that.
What so like, I guess I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but so no, actually I'll back up a little bit. So like, all right, so obviously you're running into like that lead nightmare situation, and you're probably going after bad deals that 1,000,005 other people are going after.
Right.
What was that like? What was it that finally said, okay, I need to go next level here, or go get a job? Like, what, I mean, what made you decide to start working with Chad?
It was just kind of I guess it was a low point, I guess, where I really started looking at the books, and I'm looking at how much we've spent, and I'm kind of going back, looking at the old leads and the old seller lead sheets. And I would always, one of the things that I found really helpful was every single lead that I would miss out on, I would follow up and I would follow it through to the sale after it was fixed up. And these guys were just whooping my butt I mean, there was no way I was ever going to compete with these people. They were selling it at basically the same ARV I had, and they were buying it for $20,000-$30,000 more than I had. And it was consistent every single time. And I was looking at that and I just thought, you know what? If this is the way it's always going to be, I can't succeed in this business. So I might as well either just give up or I need to completely change what I'm doing. And, Chad, he's been a part of Fortune Builders for a long time. And so that's kind of where I kind of first met him. And I kept seeing him post stuff. He would post that he was kind of doing things outside of the box of what Fortune Builders was teaching. So I thought, maybe that's what I need, because I'm in the box and it is not working. And so if Chad's making it work his way, maybe I need to go try and work it his way. So
Damn.
for the longest time, my wife and I, we would talk about him, and he'd be like, man, that Chad guy in Kansas City, man, he's just killing it. And he's doing this stuff different than the way they teach it, but it's working. So who the hell cares how they teach it? If it works, let's do it, And so when we kept following him, we're like, man, at some point we got to meet this guy. And then he starts doing these videos. Oh yeah, I'm going to start doing this marketing. And we're like, oh, no brainer, man. We gotta hitch our wagon to this guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's that's another thing too. It seems like in the when you get into real estate investing, it's like learn this, and you end up just dumping all this information in your head, and it's like, all right, well, none of this is. I mean, because there's that doesn't necessarily get you in the groove.
Right.
Just because when you're not on it.
Right.
Right,
exactly. Yep. It's crazy. And
so,
I would always think when I would look at Albuquerque, we're a pretty I would say a unique market. I'm sure if you really look at it all, everybody thinks they're in a unique market. But comparing our market to like the other big metros that I would see people posting about, I'm like, man, we're nothing like Los Angeles. We're nothing like Atlanta, and I'm originally from Kansas. And so I know Kansas City market pretty well as far as the types of houses, the types of people that are there. And I thought, I would say Albuquerque is more similar to Kansas City than all these other big metros. And I thought, okay, if it's working for Chad in Kansas City, maybe it'll work here, because all the other big metro type stuff isn't working here. So
how long, just out of curiosity, how long you been in New Mexico?
We've been here about 5 years.
Do you like it, and what brought you out there? My father's looked at it. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, it's so I grew up in Kansas, went to college at Pittsburgh State, and got a construction degree. My wife got a nursing degree from there, and I got recruited by a GC in San Diego. So we packed up, graduated college, packed up, went to San Diego. Started working for a GC out there. The economy took a dump, and they had some internal issues with management. They closed the office after, I think it was 2012. And they basically said, you know what, Justin, we like you. Would you like to, if you want to stay on, you're going to have to move back to Albuquerque, which is where they're headquartered out of, or you're going to get laid off. And I was like, well, geez, man, I like getting a check every week, so I'm going to go ahead and pack up and move.
Yeah, I was sorry for the derailment there. I was just curious. All right, so how have you been getting leads now? And are these better leads? Are they,
The only marketing, I guess we're doing social media to an extent. We do blogs, but we're really not pushing it at all. It's just more to kind of establish our credibility or keep credibility, I guess. But the only marketing campaign that we're actively pursuing right now is newspaper. And that's honestly keeping me busy, just dealing with those leads. We're probably getting, I would say I go to 2, 3, maybe 4 houses a week. But almost every single one of them, I feel like there's some potential there. Like, maybe it's not, maybe I'm not going to get it, but I'm going to be really close, Before, when I would go to like these things off of direct mail or Craigslist, I'd go to probably 5, 6, 7 houses a week. And as soon as I pulled up and met the person, I'd be like, this isn't going anywhere, man. I would do it my best. I'd try to keep myself in the right mindset, but I was like, man, this isn't going to work. And so we're getting about half as many leads now, but I would say we're exponentially better quality leads. So.
Damn, yeah, it doesn't, yeah, it's funny that you were doing the whole like mindset thing because I'm big on that too.
Yeah.
But dude, if it's not a deal, it doesn't matter what your mindset
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Yeah, you're just like, man, I just need I need to go get something to eat and hurry up and get the hell out of here. Jeez. And then the worst thing is, right, you got to call them back or something the next day, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be like 40% less than what you're even considering, and I got to call you back and tell you this. And like, man,
How many deals have you done? And did you do any before you met Chad? Or you?
we did. I had done 3 deals before Chad. Um, one we were one was on the market at the time. It was the one last year, 2018, where I just did all the work myself. So, and that was kind of a big one. That was like $85,000 rehab that I did. And then previous to that, I bought 2 in Kansas and Wichita through online auction, and then I just put them right back on the market and sold them. So I didn't really do anything there, but we did make a little bit of money on both of them.
And how many? What were you saying when you first got on the call? You were looking at a 4th deal. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So we got 3 under contract right now, and then just yesterday a 4th one popped up or popped its head back up that I actually turned down. So, and then there's 2 more that are in the hopper that are really solid.
That's got to give you a lot more confidence now.
Oh, dude, that it's huge, huge. I I would say that was probably that was one of the biggest hurdles early on, was not having done any deals, whether it was just a buy it at the auction and put it right back in the market, and just going through the process of closing and reselling. Not even having done that, I was just like so terrified to do anything because I was afraid I was going to screw something up and cost myself tens of thousands of dollars. And so I kind of got into this spot where I just froze and didn't do anything. And I was waiting for that big home run rehab to fall into my lap, and that never just nothing like that just really falls into your lap. You really got to be working for it. And so I was so scared to go work for it that it's like this big circle of just nothing happening. But yeah, actually the thing I felt that really jump started me was those auction houses I bought, because they were like, the first one I bought it for $6,000, and I sold it for $11,000. And so I knew going into it, like, okay, if this just falls apart completely and I lose everything, okay, I'm out $6,000. And so I didn't have that fear factor as much. And so I just kind of jumped into it, bought it, sold it, and then having gone through the process, I was like, all right, you can actually do this, man. There's a way to actually make money here. So then I bought another one the next month at the same auction, bought another one, and I went into that not really scared. I was like, all right, I got to get this. This is my number. I'm going to get it. And I was excited when I got it, and I sold it. And then shortly after that, I got the house here in Albuquerque that I flipped, and I went into that just confident. And I was like, all right, man, I'm going to get this thing and we're going to kill it. So that confidence level was just huge, man. Without
Yes.
that confidence, I didn't feel like I wanted to do anything. I wanted to like sit around and wait for some wholesaler to call me and say, hey, I got this smoking hot deal. It's like just hoping and praying that was going to happen. So.
It doesn't. So 3 deals. Take me to one of them. Tell me, how did you find the deal? Why did the sellers decide to work with you?
Yeah, so there was one. So the one that we rehabbed here in Albuquerque last year, it was actually, I actually found out about that I bought it off the MLS. It was a foreclosure. I found out about it about 6 or 7 months before it even got foreclosed. And it was actually from a Craigslist ad. The neighbor directly across the street had called me, and so I went to his house, looked at it. And as I'm shaking his hand, walking out, I look across the street, and there's this boarded up house. And I was like, "Hey, man, what do you know about that house?" He's like, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "This is the story on it." And I was like, "All right." And so I looked the lady up. She's out in Los Angeles, and so I start writing her letters, telling her I want to buy her house. Doesn't respond, and then eventually I see it pop up on the MLS, and I was really familiar with the property because it was a really big house in a neighborhood full of small houses. And so it was kind of unique. Like the whole neighborhood is like ARVs of like 160. This one was an ARV of almost 250. And if you're just looking through the MLS and you saw this address pop up, you're like, that's a $160,000 house. And so I think that's kind of what happened, because when it first popped up, I submitted my offer. It was me and two other people. The first guy got it. He walked it, and it was a train wreck inside. Stuff's falling down. It was like add on here, add on there, nothing's permitted. And so he walks it and then he backs out, and all of us, we were just bidding it sight unseen, and the pictures, they didn't do it justice. And so then it goes back up to auction, or back up to being listed. And I'm actually the low bidder the second time around. Well, then I walk it, I get in there with my contractors, and I'm like, oh, geez, man, dude, I'm like 15 grand, 20 grand too high. So I resubmit my offer. The bank says no. They relist it, goes back third time. Then the other guy that was still there, I don't think there was ever any new bidders looking at this thing. It was me and the other two guys. Well, the first guy, he just falls out. He doesn't even try to resubmit an offer. And so the other guy gets it. He walks it. He backs out again. And so then it goes back to the MLS for like the fourth time. And I get it, and I submit my offer, and the bank is like, oh, no, we got multiple offers. And I was like, no, you guys don't. No way. Because I knew, like, I was fairly aggressive on it, and I was like, there's no way anybody else is higher than me. And, it turns into the whole game of what the banks do. Oh, highest and best. And I kept saying, I'm not moving, I'm not coming up. My realtor's freaking out. He's like, oh, man, dude, you've got to raise your price. We're going to miss it. The realtor's telling me he's got other offers. And I'm like, BS, man. Because a couple weeks had gone by this whole process. And in our market at that time last year, it was like 48 hours is a long time for stuff to be on the market. And a couple weeks gone by, and I was like, no way. There's no other bidders on this, or this would have been gone by now. And so I just kind of kept holding my ground. And finally, the bank calls my realtor at like 3:00 on a Wednesday, like all kind of pissed off, and said, listen, if your guy is serious and he's going to close on this damn thing at this smoking low price, then he better close at 10 a.m. on Friday. And I was like, holy crap. So they gave me less than 48 hours to close on it. And luckily I had the cash in the bank and didn't have to worry about a lender, and I was able to close. But
what
do that.
What was another deal?
So the other ones were just, one was a triplex in Wichita. I actually bought it initially as a buy and hold. I think I bought it for $17,000, and each unit was renting for $400 a month. And I thought, all right, this is a pretty good deal. And there was one unit right after I bought it, like one of the tenants moves out. I was like, all right, let me go over there and I'll see about fixing that unit up a little bit. And I had owned it for about a month and a half, and I drive to Wichita. I've got all these tools loaded up in my truck, and I've got all these plans in my head, like, all right, I'm going to fix this, fix that, do this. I get there, and I'm just kind of walking around the outside, checking it out. I get to the back, and the vinyl siding is like all melted off in like 3 spots. I'm like, what in the world is this? And the neighbor, she comes out. She's like, hey, are you the owner? I said, yeah, I'm the owner. She's like, oh, yeah, I'm glad. She's like, you ought to be glad I called the fire department when I did. And I was like, what? Fire department? She's like, oh, yeah, like a month ago. Somebody tried to light your place on fire, and smoke started coming into my house. And so I called 911. And turns out it was like the ex-boyfriend of the previous tenant, and he was trying to get back at her, and he had ripped all the wiring out of the place, stole the water heater, stole everything. And the police department and the fire department never wrote police reports or anything. So there was no record of this ever happening. And so when I call my insurance company to say, hey, you had this fire, they're like, show us the police report and it'll be good. I was like, one doesn't exist. Nothing I can do about it. And so I was like, man, I'm not going to spend the money on trying to fix this thing. So I just put it back up, put it up for sale, and I sold it. And I think we ended up, even with the damage, we sold it for $29,000. And so we made about $13,000 on it.
Damn, nice.
Yeah.
And then let me see. What about the other one? Because you said
the other one was purely, I just knew it was a good deal. Like, I knew the neighborhood. even the lot itself was worth more than what they were asking for the property. And so I just bought it and then just put it right back up for sale.
How did you find that one?
That was an online auction as well. There's a real estate only auction company in Wichita. Well, I should say real estate only. They primarily just do real estate. And so that every month they've got like multi-property auctions where it's like 20, 30, 40 properties up for sale. They auction them off at night. And it's every single one of them is an investment grade type property.
So how do you get most of your deals from the auctions, or are you, because I remember you were saying something about I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like, what adjustment did you make when you started working with Chad? Like you said, you and your wife are like always saw him popping off on the boards.
Yeah. So what we knew, like, buying stuff at the auction, we knew like, okay, we can make a few grand here or there, but it's not going to be enough to sustain a business off of it. And so we knew, like, okay, it might be nice to just get like some vacation money off of these auctions every year, but it's not realistically, we can't just rely on it. So that's when we were really trying to focus on all these other marketing campaigns, and that's when those marketing campaigns just kept falling flat every single time. And the MLS is so competitive. I mean, it's just stupid. I always call them pickup truck flippers. Those are the ones searching the MLS for everything. All these guys that partner up with their buddy from work and they just buy a house, and on the weekends they go over and fix it up. And we compete with a ton of guys like that. And I know realistically, unless I just happen to find this house that nobody else is seeing in a pocket in the neighborhood, like the one that we did get, unless I was finding a bunch of those, I again wasn't going to be able to rely on the MLS to be a steady stream of deals for us. Because I was looking at 20 houses a day popping up on the MLS, and 19 of them were just junk, and then one would be like maybe a potential deal, but we were getting 40, 50 people submitting offers on it. And I just thought, man, I can't compete with this type of stuff. And so, that's why, like I say, I kept trying to go back to these alternate methods of marketing, and nothing else was really working. Because I knew off market, that's where it's at. I mean, every once in a while you stumble across something on market, but the vast majority of your stuff that's going to make you money is off market. And so I know that's where I needed to focus, but I just couldn't get any of those campaigns to land anything. And so that's when I saw Chad, and I was like, man, he keeps landing all these off market things. And he kept posting, he's like, yeah, I buy this house and I don't even do anything to it, and I just send in my cleaning crew and list it. And I'm like, man, if I could just find like 2 of those a year, I'd be freaking happy, man. And he's just posting like 2 or 3 a week, it seemed like. I was like, son of a bitch.
So did you end up hitting some of those deals?
Those are the types of things that we're coming across now. So of the 3 that we've got under contract, one of them is like that. It's literally a guy and his wife that are older. They're wanting to move to St. Louis. They just don't want to sell. House is in perfect condition. There's literally one crack in the ceiling that we're going to mud and patch with paint, and then we're going to list it. And there's a $30,000 profit on that, and it's probably a $200 rehab. But man, and that pays half of my year's salary just on that one deal.
Damn.
Yeah, it's serious, man. And I mentioned there's a couple other that are kind of in the hopper that I think have really good potential. We don't have them under contract, but I think they're going to come back around. And one of them's like that. It's another lady that she's moving into a senior living facility, and she has to time the sale of her house with signing of a lease agreement, and she doesn't want to deal with trying to get lucky and make all that stuff line up.
Dude, some of this stuff you're saying is pure gold. Do you care if him and I put any of this together for marketing or something like that?
No, I don't care.
Dude, that's bad, dude. That's crazy, though, man. Yeah, it's like I was like that in a similar field that I was in of lining up clients. I have to get clients. I work with Chad, and I work with a bunch of different people and stuff like that. And it's like when you're not in the groove, man, it makes it harder. And then you can do one deal that just changes everything.
Right. Yeah. It seemed like for the longest time it was it was like I was almost begging people, like, "Oh, please sell me your house. I really want your house." And now it's like this person I turned away yesterday, man, it felt so good. On one hand, I walked away from some potential money, but it's like you were begging me, like they were trying to talk me into lower to like they were like, well, we'll pay for this, we'll fix that. Maybe we'll give you. They offer me a gift card to Home Depot for some appliances, and I was like, man, and they knew that I was already lower than the guy that they were wanting to sell to. So I thought, man, this feels so awesome. Like they are basically coming to me as opposed to me going after them. It felt so good.
So on all 4 deals combined, how much do you think you'll make?
We should be about 160 to 175,000.
Hell, that's awesome, dude. Congrats. Well done.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's
and,
bad.
and it's just been all of last year was just like panicking, like, what are we going to do? We're not going to make it. And now this year, it's like, all right, man, we're going to pay all that debt off, and it's basically right there for us, and we're only in May. I thought, this is great.
Yeah, you're not even halfway through the year yet, man.
Yeah, right.
When did you start working with Chad?
I think I signed up with him in probably November. It was like the very first group of guys that he put the program together for.
And
I think it was in November, and I took off the holidays because I thought, this was me at the time when I didn't have any leads, and I convinced myself nobody's selling during the holidays, so I'm just gonna kick my feet up and take care of some business, and so I convinced myself to do that. And it really wasn't until probably mid-January or February where I actually really started to implement the stuff that he was telling me to do. And so we ran our first ad in the newspaper. I want to say the second Saturday of February. And literally that Monday morning at 9, I had a call to Pat Live, my answering service, with one of the leads that I'm under contract with right now. And so I was like, man, within 48 hours, I was already starting to see stuff come through. It was great.
Huge, dude. That's huge. That's insane. That's inspiring, actually. I only got a little bit for you here. Dude, I appreciate you doing this with me, man. But I'm sitting here like this is one of the reasons I don't like taking notes, because you're flipping my head here, and I'm like, dude, if I were writing notes, I wouldn't. I'd hear half of what you were saying.
Yeah. We have a pretty decent, we have a pretty good presence of fortune builder students here. The real estate investing. And I go to these monthly meetings with these guys every month, and for the last freaking 2 years, I go in there, and it's almost like an AA meeting. It's like everybody's sitting around. It's like, does anybody have any deals? No, don't have anything. There's people that have been in part of the program for like 4 or 5 years, never done a deal, and they keep showing up to these meetings. And it was like so depressing, man. I'm like, oh my God. And so I started feeding into that, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And so you start convincing yourself, like, well, if they can't do it, I can't do it. This market's just not even possible. Nobody can flip a house here. And then but I obviously I know that's not true. There's a guy in town, he does 70 houses a year or so. And he hires it all out. He's not doing it himself. He's got a great model down. So I know it's possible, but man, you start surrounding yourself with kind of that negativity and the lack of success, and it kind of just starts to bring you down.
Yeah. All right. So let me see. Let me see if there's anything I want to ask here. So what would you say would be the main tangible outcome in your personal life from getting it right, working with Chad, and starting to get these things coming in?
In my personal life, I would just say overall happy. I'm just a happier person. I'm not as stressed, which is, it sounds odd to say you're not stressed when for several months I was just sitting around. I could basically have the freedom to go do whatever the hell I wanted because nobody's calling me. I don't have anybody to go to see. I don't have any contractors to manage. I have no no bills to pay. And so it's kind of like the dream, you know, it's like, hey, I just kick my feet up every single day. And now I'm trying to meet contractors. I'm always meeting sellers and I'm trying to get quotes out. And I've got so much more responsibility now, but I have so much less stress because I know the money is in the pipeline, you know. I, I'll be candid. I've got a lot of debt from having not really done much for the last year and just spending all this money. But the fact that I know the money's coming now, it's like, okay, it's working. You know, I have confidence that our business is going to work and that we're gonna get our way out of this. And so, you know, my wife and I, we talked about, oh, you know what, maybe over Thanksgiving we're gonna go on vacation now. Last year it was like, don't you even mention the word vacation. We're not spending any more damn money. You know, it's like, and so my wife and I, we would just start butting heads over stupid stuff, right? Because I think it's pretty typical of most relationships, right? Money is a big issue. And so when we didn't have the money coming in, it was really kind of making a lot of stress on our relationship. And now that we know the money's coming, it's like, okay, we're happy again, and we know we're going to be okay.
I appreciate your candor. You're not talking to freaking Daddy Warbucks over here. I was before I started working with Chad, I owned another business that pretty much did just one of these things into the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm in the same situation you are. I'm finally coming. I'm like you and I are like kind of doing different things, but parallel, because I'm like when you were saying all that kind of stuff, man, it's like I remember just getting some money coming in and knowing I knew how to do it again. Yeah,
Right.
and dude, it was just like more than just being able to go out and get dinner. Dude, the psychological impact on me recently has been huge, man. So I got a kid coming too, man.
Oh, serious. Yeah, there's really something there when, you know, I spend a ton of money on marketing or spend big bucks on this, that, or the other. And it's like I don't even really worry because it's like I know how to make the money, and I know I can do it. And so just having that confidence that I have the skill set to do it, it's like, okay, let's go ahead and just pull the trigger, spend that money, and let's keep moving.
All right. Any I'm trying to think of anything interesting. All right. What was like a unique mechanism or a unique way of doing things that Chad showed you?
Probably the most unique thing was it was probably just a newspaper ad because nobody else in town does it. I'm literally every Saturday in our paper we have, it's probably about a 20-page insert of just real estate, and I'm literally the only investor that's in there, and it's just realtor, bank, you know. And now that I'm the only one in there, I'm starting to get calls from lenders saying, "Hey, I saw an ad in the paper for you," and it's like, I've never seen anybody get written up in the paper like that. You know, they don't realize it's a paid advertisement, right? But it's like nobody's ever seen an investor take this route, you know? And so I guess kind of thinking outside of the mainstream investor type of marketing, right? And I'm not, stop looking at bandit signs and stop looking at freaking Craigslist, and let's do some stuff that nobody else is doing.
All right, I think this might be my last question or second to last question. If you were trying to convince someone, they were sitting on the fence, you know, they were sitting on the fence maybe about working with Chad or joining in Chad's group, your group, what do you think you could say that would knock them onto the right side?
You know, I think probably the biggest benefit to working with Chad is he's found success. And it doesn't matter what the gurus say. You need to work with somebody that's actually successful. You know, I could go on a blog somewhere and say, "Oh yeah, I flipped 50 houses this year and I made all kinds of money." Okay, well that's great. How'd you do it? Oh, I put up bandit signs and I did this and that and did what everybody else does. Okay, well you probably didn't because everybody else is doing that. So the best people to take advice from are people that are actually in the business, doing the work and finding success. You know, that there's a lot of people that talk the talk, but when it comes down to brass tacks, who's actually getting business and getting it done, those are the types of people that you need to be hitching your wagon to, and not these people that have the big fancy logos everywhere and advertising all over the country. And that they may be great, they may be successful in their own right, but and if you're not at that level, maybe not the best people to take advice from. So Chad's in a kind of a Kansas City's kind of a little bit smaller market, and so I think he probably appeals to a lot of people that are in those little bit smaller markets that kind of get left out from the big Los Angeles, Dallas, Denver type markets. Because everybody always focuses on that type of stuff. Oh, if you want to be successful, you got to do this. Well, it works for big markets, but what about all of us in these mid-range markets? Well, we're not. Well, maybe just go talk to your local RIA. Oh, okay, well, thanks. I appreciate the help there.
I like that you killed me when you said it was the local Alcoholics Anonymous Club. I was trying not to bust out laughing when you said that, dude. And then you get in that, like you said, you start getting in that headspace. Dude, they're like a black hole that sucks you in.
It is, yeah. It's tough when most of those people, they're all part of the real estate education group that I'm a part of, right? And so that education group teaches you about mindset, staying away from that type of stuff. But then to put yourself right into it with people that are kind of ignoring that advice, it's like, oh my God, this is horrible.
Well, brother, I appreciate it. I think big help for me in what I'm doing, working with Chad, and thank you for letting us use it. I don't know if you guys ever meet or run into each other, but he owes you like a cup of coffee and a big steak dinner.
Yeah, glad this is recorded.
Yeah. Oh, I always get permission, and I have to do it that way because I'm typical male, dude. One thing at a time, or I'm not going to hear half of what you say. I'll just be writing. So,
yeah,
well,
I'm with you.
Dude, to your continued success, congratulations. Nice meeting you. Maybe we'll talk again down the road if I do other things with Chad. But,
yeah.
Dude, pretty inspiring, dude.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate it, John. Anytime, I'm glad I could help out.
Cool, brother. All right, you got my text. Text me or Chad whenever.
Okay, awesome, man. Take it easy. I appreciate it.
All right, you too. See you, bud.
Later.